Assassin's Creed, a franchise that revolutionized the open world action genre, has undergone some significant changes in recent years. The release of Assassin's Creed Origins, Odyssey and Valhalla introduced some RPG elements and shifted the focus away from the core tenets that made Assassin's Creed so beloved. And with the imminent release of Assassin's Creed Mirage being the return to the original game design, I've created this video essay in aims to explore the reason why Assassin's Creed should return to its roots. And I'm emphasizing the need for a revival of the original gameplay formula, which is slated to be in Mirage. Now, as much as it was disliked by the community at large, Assassin's Creed Syndicate was, quote, the last true Assassin's Creed title before the series went full RPG, and that quote is from me. The last game to truly retain the formula of Assassin's Creed was Syndicate, which retained black box missions, eagle vision, actual parkour, and not the clunky interpretation that we've seen in the RPG trilogy, but of course tailing missions as well. As much as we despise them, but at this point I'm not gonna lie, I'm really missing them. Unfortunately, after Syndicate, Ubisoft decided to flip the script and incorporate RPG elements into the franchise, whilst also having a larger focus on mythology that changed the franchise forever, becoming almost unrecognisable apart from by name. Odyssey. Assassin's Creed died a long time ago, meaning the Assassin's Creed that we used to know has died. The days of stealth and parkour have now been watered down to slowly jumping up a building and putting a hood on to blend in. So let's briefly discuss the essence of Assassin's Creed. The series has always focused on historical settings and immersive storytelling. Every single Assassin's Creed has its own individual setting, meaning that each game does feel different, yet it still retains the same formula. We've been to Renaissance Italy, the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and a plethora of other locations throughout the series. In all of these games, we've also been able to meet characters from history, such as Leonardo da Vinci, Blackbeard, and George Washington. And that's one of the main focuses of the series that I think the recent entries have lost. It's the historical setting. Yes, although these games have been set in the past, doesn't necessarily mean that they reflect the time period that they were set in. And this is probably because the earlier entries were a lot smaller, so the moments that you had with these historical figures felt more prevalent and meaningful compared to the RPG series. And while we're on the topic of the essence of Assassin's Creed and the core pillars that create it, I can't forget about the parkour mechanics. Parkour is one of the main mechanics that changes from game to game, so we've had multiple iterations of the parkour system. From the first game up until about Black Flag, we've had the same parkour system, and then from Unity to Syndicate we had a different parkour system, and now with the RPG series we have something that I couldn't really call parkour, maybe a novice attempt at it, but either way that's the game's approach to their parkour system. Because this is an element that was the foundations of the first Assassin's Creed game. It was one of the things that made people want to play it, because you could explore the city any way you wanted to. But it's a feature that I believe was lost or diluted in the RPG era, mainly because the maps were a lot bigger, meaning that there wasn't a lot of condensed spaces for you to parkour through. And it's genuinely one of the big reasons why I don't just run around and explore the RPG games after I finish them. It's just not fun. With Mirage showing that it is going to return to the roots of the series, I'm just going to discuss the importance of that returning to roots. Personally, I think it's going to be really invigorating for the series, capturing the essence of what made those original games just so special, especially as it's been something that we've been wanting for a really long time, and it will really reconnect with the core fan base of the franchise. However, not a lot of these features are present in the more recent RPG series, and it's really been a departure from the roots. The transition to the RPG framework was definitely unexpected for long-time fans. There was a shift towards level-based progression which was never seen in the series up until the RPG trilogy. Yes, in Unity and Syndicate there was skill trees, but there was no gatekeeping between progression. For example, no matter where you went, you could always one-shot an enemy with a hidden blade, whereas in the RPG trilogy you might not have a max tier hidden blade, so therefore you might be able to do like half damage on an enemy, but then you still have to finish them off and will still get detected. And because these RPG games are, well, RPGs, the maps are so much bigger. The expansive open worlds are leading to more diluted content, and that's because the games aren't hyper-focused on a smaller area, but including so much more content. Because since they're working on these absolutely massive, and don't get me wrong, beautiful open worlds, it's taking away from the main fundamentals of the series, such as these big condensed cities that the series has been known for since the very start. And while we're on the topic of diluted content, there has been a detrimental impact on the narrative cohesiveness in the series. Yes, we know that once upon a time Desmond was the main character, and now we have Layla, and that's fine. Yes, new protagonist coming through is absolutely beautiful, I love to see it. At least we're still getting that modern day storyline. But unfortunately, because the Animus storyline is so stretched out due to the fact that it is a massive open world RPG, the narrative points don't always line up and feel really stretched out. Whereas in the older games, it felt like a more condensed story happening in real time. It's just something that I've noticed while playing the RPG series. And there has really been a loss of identity, and I guess franchise fatigue as well. The dilution of the stealth and parkour mechanics has really been detrimental to the hardcore fans who love that part of the series and who aren't just there for the story. There has also been a reduced emphasis on the Assassin and Templar conflict, and now have been replaced for substitutes like the Hidden Ones. But ultimately, it's the oversaturation of similar open world RPG experiences that are out there for people to play right now. Because that currently is the big trend at the moment. It's just open world RPG games, and that's something that we just have to deal with at the moment. But it is a leading factor into the franchise fatigue, certainly for the RPG trilogy. And this is one thing that I'm liking about Mirage, because it brings back the importance of returning to the roots of the franchise. Honestly, I really think that it will reinvigorate the series, capturing the essence of what made the original game so special for all of us. It will really reconnect with the core fan base as well. Because we really haven't seen these mechanics since 2015 with Assassin's Creed Syndicate. And I definitely think that this smaller style of Assassin's Creed game will attract new players, especially if they've just hopped into the franchise with the RPG trilogy, and who are looking for a more short and sweet Assassin's Creed game. Along with this, players will be able to rediscover the stealth system and parkour mechanics that have been long forgotten. Because Mirage will be emphasizing social stealth, which is one of the main things that brought people to the first game. You could blend in with priests, you could sit on a bench, and as blasé and as boring as that sounds, that was revolutionary for the time and actually made sense in the overall story. And of course, different ways to assassinate a target. Instead of just running up to a big horde of enemies that are surrounding them, taking them down one by one, you can actually plan out your assassination approach with deep thought, and just make it your own at the end of the day. And how will you do that? Well, by promoting the seamless traversal and verticality that will be present in Mirage. The parkour system is going to be a lot faster than what we've seen in the RPG trilogies. Before, it's been quite clunky and slow, especially in Valhalla, although Origins and Odyssey did keep it at a good pace, I do have to admit, even if there are some things about their approach to parkour that I don't really agree with. But now with the new revitalized parkour system, there is now a thrill of being agile and being a deadly assassin, which is something that has been sorely missed in the RPG series. Because the new parkour system and traversal system will be much more akin to something like Unity's pacing than something like AC2, where it was a bit slower and clunky. And who will you be assassinating? Well, Mirage will be rebuilding the Assassin and Templar conflict, delving deeper into the rich lore of the series and keeping it a lot more grounded than the RPG games have, even though there have been a few more fantastical elements in the trailers, but I'm just happy we're getting a smaller scale Assassin's Creed at the end of the day. And it seems like with character development, Ubisoft are going to be creating more engaging narratives, especially with complex characters. Being a smaller experience means that we get to have have more time with these side characters, and therefore we can form more of a relationship with them, rather than doing a bunch of side quests and then coming back to the main story. It's going to be a much shorter and condensed experience, which I just can't wait for. But ultimately, with the series, the main fundamental thing that everyone comes back for is the Hidden Blade. And Mirage is going to be enhancing the significance of the Hidden Blade, as well as many other iconic tools that we've seen throughout the series. And it's the fact that Ubisoft have taken the time to give us this game. Although, yes, it was originally meant to be a DLC for Valhalla, I'm glad that they've made it their own thing, and almost made it a love letter to the original fan base who preferred that much more condensed experience that the original series had to offer, in contrast to the RPG games, where the original fans may have just skipped the RPG games altogether because they don't really encapsulate the fundamentals of what the Assassin's Creed series used to be, and definitely isn't now. While Assassin's Creed Origins, Odyssey and Valhalla have undeniably pushed the franchise in new directions, there is most definitely a growing and ever-present sentiment amongst fans that the series has lost touch with what made the franchise so replayable. By returning to the core principles of historical settings and stealth gameplay, as well as the Assassin-Templar conflict, Ubisoft has an opportunity to revitalise the franchise. A revival of the original formula would not only satisfy the desires of long-time fans, but also attract new players seeking a unique and immersive Assassin's Creed experience, especially on a smaller scale. Because I believe it's time for Assassin's Creed to return to its roots, and for the series to reclaim their rightful place in the gaming world. If you liked this video and you want to see more Assassin's Creed stuff from me, then feel free to either check out my retrospective on Assassin's Creed Odyssey, or my video on Assassin's Creed parkour and how it's so influential. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.